You are most welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to your power behind the voice on Tuesday Night Anatomy with Daniel Okwan. Yes, we are still in the era of anatomy of clinical importance. And my friends, this is today's case study. A 45-year-old man involved in an automobile accident had his spleen punctured by a broken rib. On physical examination and through an abdominal ultrasound scan, it was revealed that the spleen had inflamed. Not only that, the inflammation of the spleen did not displace downwards. That's first of all the observation that was made. However, yes, we realized that the red blood cell count had reduced drastically. Now, there was the indication to therefore remove the spleen. And my friends, yes, after the removal of the spleen, this patient, yes, still had a successful, life afterwards. So this is the case study that we have, before us. And so let's go through the questions that, yes, we are confronted with today. Now, the first question is that, yes, this patient, through whatever means, in this case study was stated that through an automobile accident, but through whatever means, yes, there could be a broken rib, okay, which could, yes, puncture through, the spleen. And so the first question I want to understand is that which rib or ribs, yes, that upon fracture could puncture through the spleen. My friends, the first thing that we need to understand is that the spleen, by way of quadrants of the abdomen, is located in the left upper quadrant. And of course, by way of regions, it is located in the left hypochondriac region. And so therefore tells me that the sort of ribs that we'll be talking about should be the left ribs. And so one thing that we understand is that lying deep to, of course, rib number, this time around 9, 10, and of course 11 to the left side, yes, these are the ribs that the spleen is related to. And for this reason, when any of these ribs get fractured, yes, it could puncture through, of course, the spleen. Now, the second question that we are confronted with is that, yes, it was stated that this patient had reduced, red blood cell count. Yes, it makes sense. There's not only been red blood cell count, but of course, the point that we want to make over here is that the spleen, one of its functions is to serve as a reservoir of blood. And so whenever there's that puncture through the spleen, okay, with its main blood supply coming from what we call the splenic artery, then it tells you that a great deal of blood will be lost. And that may lead to, of course, reduction in, of course, the red blood cell count, yes, including other, peripheral cells of the blood. So that's an important point that I want you to know. Now, it was stated again that, yes, this spleen, after it was removed, yes, in a process called splenectomy, then the point is that this patient, yes, still survived. For the reason that, yeah, the point is that the spleen is not a vital organ. Yes, you can live without it, although it plays some important roles. But those roles do not necessarily support life. Talking about something like the heart, the lungs, talking about the liver. Okay, these organs are very important. They support life. Okay, like the brain. All these ones, they are vital organs that you cannot live with. However, if the spleen, okay, gets inflamed, it can be removed and then one will survive. Only that it is likely that the individual may suffer from, of course, encapsulated bacterial infections, and it's one of the things which can lead to, of course, the individual, often getting sick and all that. Now, the next question you want to understand is that you said there was an inflammation of the spleen, but the inflammation did not cause the spleen to displace downwards. And so we want to understand the anatomical basis for this observation. My friends, the answer is simple, because the spleen gets a support from below, okay, and that support is by way of a ligament, okay, which connects all the way from the diaphragm to, of course, what we call the splenic flexure, okay, the left colic flexure. And my friend, the answer is something we call phrenicocholic ligament. So it was the help of the phrenicocholic ligament which supports the spleen from below, and that is why the same ligament is given another name, sustentaculum laini. The word sustentaculum, or to sustain, has to do with giving the support, and laini, okay, has to do with the lienal organ, that's the spleen. So the ligament that supports the spleen from below, phrenicocholic ligament or sustentaculum laini. Okay, so that's another important point which I want you to know, and that is why at any point in time, yes, we know that normally the spleen will weigh about 198 grams, yes, approximately 200 grams, yes, with some few variations. But the point I want to make over here is that even if it enlarges to whatever degree, there will not be downward displacement because of the support provided from the below point, and that is by way of the phrenicocholic ligament, sustentaculum laini. Now, during the surgical intervention, yes, it wasn't stated whether it was uneventful or not, but the point is that which structures, okay, will have to be taken care of, and these structures that I'm talking about, which ligaments are they contained in? That, of course, the surgeon will have to be very mindful, be very careful, so that you don't cut through, these structures. So there are two important ligaments which contain some important structures as far as the spleen is concerned. Therefore, the surgeon will have to be very careful to mobilize, okay, the structures within these ligaments very well, okay, so that you don't cut through them. If you have to cut through them, then of course, some kind of minor things that we are looking at, but it shouldn't be a major iatrogenic injury. And what are these structures? The first structure I want to talk about is, of course, something that we call, linorenal ligament. Linorenal ligament. Now, the linorenal ligament you can also call splenorenal ligament, but oftentimes you'll be seeing linorenal ligament already. I've told you that whenever you hear the word lino, it has to do with the spleen, okay, to, of course, the left kidney. So linorenal ligaments, okay, it's one of the structures, very important structure that we need to be mindful of, because one thing is that it contains some two important structures I want to tell you. The first one is, of course, the tail of the pancreas. Tail of the pancreas. And my friends, one thing about the tail of the pancreas is that is where maximum, islets of Langerhans are located. And so for this reason, if you don't take care, then you cut through this, linorenal ligament, and therefore cutting through the tail of the pancreas, then what's going to happen is that this patient may suffer from some kind of carbohydrate, metabolic disorders. Okay, that's the first thing. Yes, not only that, we know that the pancreas is a heterogeneous organ. It has both endocrine, yes, and of course, exocrine portions. Yes, we've looked at the endocrine portions by way of the islet of Langerhans. Okay, alpha cells, beta cells, alpha cells be secreting glucagon. Okay, beta cells, insulin, talking about, delta cells, somatostatin, the F cells, pancreatic polypeptides. Okay, all these ones be produced by the endocrine portion. That's not the one we are looking at, but we are looking at even the exocrine portion, full of enzymes. And because they are full of enzymes, they can cause degradation of what we call the abdominal cavity, causing a lot of destruction of the important structures over there. Okay, so that's one thing, okay, that we have to be very careful about. Now, the other structure which is also located in the linorenal ligament is, my friends, the splenic vessel. So I'm talking about the splenic artery. I'm also talking about the splenic vein. So you have to be very careful so that you don't cut through, importantly, the splenic artery. Okay, otherwise there will be also great deal, of blood loss, okay, in, of course, the abdominal cavity, because at the end of the day, one of the major branches coming from, of course, the celiac trunk, yes, one of the ventral, branches of what we call the abdominal aorta is, of course, the splenic artery. Okay, so we have to be very careful about that. Yes, not only that, there's one more ligament, and that ligament is something that we call it splenogastric or gastrosplenic ligament. Splenogastric or gastrosplenic ligament. And my friends, the gastrosplenic ligament will contain something we call the short gastric vessels, okay, and also will contain the left gastroepiploic or left gastroomental, artery or vessels actually. So these are the important structures that you need to be mindful and their contents, so that you don't cause this kind of, iatrogenic, injury to, this kind of surgical, procedure by way of removing the spleen in splenectomy. So these are the important points which came from this case study. My friends, I'm very grateful for your time this evening. Have a good night, all of you, and may the good Lord richly bless you. Amen.